Today is July the 18th, 2024. 10 years ago, on this exact date, i.e., July the 18th, 2014, I boarded a plane to go to Edmonton, Alberta, Canada to spend the 6-week summer holidays with my dad and my stepmom. Little did I know that what was supposed to be a holiday would turn into a permanent vacation, a permanent stay, and me residing in Canada for the next decade. It's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since I moved to Canada. But I've been thinking about this milestone for the last few months, to be honest with you. People have asked me, where are you from? When did you move here? I've lived here for 10 years, and they're very surprised to hear that because I still have my British accent and what have you. But 10 years, man. It's been 10 years since I moved to this country. And man, feels like yesterday I was boarding that plane. On the morning of the 18th of July 2014, my mum dropped my brother and I off at Doncaster train station, said goodbye to her, gave her a hug and said I'd see her in around 6 weeks. We got the train down to Heathrow, boarded a flight destined for Edmonton in the province of Alberta in Canada. This is where my father had been living for the last year. He moved over to Canada in April 2013 and did so to pursue a job in civil engineering, which he still currently does today. I won't go into all the details about what he does for work, but he built a very good reputation for himself over there, built a good life, and still does have a good life in Canada, as do I. And he was provincially nominated in the time before I moved, meaning that he was set to stay in the country. When I touched down in Canada, I was just happy to be there again. I'd visited him a few months after he'd moved out there permanently, and I really loved spending time there. I felt just a lot happier, just being near him because I'm very close with him. I loved the lifestyle, I loved the outdoors nature, I loved how laid back Canada seemed to be, and the warm weather in the summer. At that point, I didn't know what the winter was like, and it's probably best not to tell me at the time because it would have been quite a shock to my sister when I did actually experience it, but that's coming in a little bit. Anyway, in 2014, I touched down again to start the 6-week break. We did the usual things. We went to Banff and Jasper, we explored Edmonton a bit, went on a few road trips as well, saw some of my dad's friends over there, and spent some time with my brother. He stayed for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I spent the rest of the summer holidays there. In the week leading up to me getting my A-level results, I was starting to feel a bit nervous. It was weighing on my mind a little bit about what was going to possibly happen, because the initial plan was for me to do sixth form and then come to Canada to study there, live with my dad. My school wasn't really, I'm going to say, supportive of that decision. I told them that UCAS open days and applying for British universities weren't really going to help me personally. And the reason for that is because I said to them, I want to move to Canada to study there, live with my dad. That's my plan. On the day I got my A-level results, it was about 1 week before my 17th birthday. I woke up at like 3 o'clock in the morning, probably even earlier than that, to be honest with you, and called up the school. They were supposed to have emailed me my results. They didn't do so. So I had to make a phone call and ask, what did I get? And I got, well, not going to say exactly what I got, but I didn't really get very good grades. I told my brother, and he said, now come on, James, what did you really get? I said, no, I got And he said, you're joking? He couldn't believe it. And yeah, it was a bit of a shock to us all. I was upset. I felt like I'd failed in that moment in time. My mum was saying, don't worry about it, we'll figure out something for you. My dad was contacting teachers and the head asking why my results are bad. Because I'd gone from being a high-achieving GCSE student to more or less crashing and burning in the space of 10 months. And I'll admit that in this video. I'd done that in the space of 10 months, like I say, which is a very short space of time. And it wasn't like me to do so. After just some time, I think it was my stepmom who said, look, I'm not saying that James has done this on purpose, but it might be the best thing for him. Let's see if he has the legal right to remain in Canada. And if he does, enroll him into a Canadian high school where he'll do grade 12, graduate, and then he'll get his foot in the door into studying here. Hey, the school emailed my dad back and said, look, it's just James should just stay in Canada then. So I wasn't going to go back to the UK. So a big change was about to come in my life from that sense. I was enrolled into a Canadian high school in Edmonton. I'm not going to say the name of it. Within 2 weeks, I got a temporary visitor permit and a study permit. I opened up a Canadian bank account and yeah, I was all ready to go for school, basically. I'd enrolled, got all my classes. And yeah, it was going to be a big change at that point. I'm just speaking. When I speak about this, I think about it at the same time. And it was a little bit of not a shock to the system, but it was a bit like a lot going on. Do you know what I'm saying? It was a lot going on in such a short space of time. And it was going to be a big change in a short space of time. It's not like I had a few months to adjust. First day at high school over there, I remember the school was just huge. And long hallways, students weren't in uniform. I was like literally the tiny little goldfish in the Atlantic Ocean. Well, Pacific Ocean was closer, but anyway. The school system in Alberta at the time was, in my mind, it was a lot easier than what I thought. What they were doing in the senior year was what I'd done in my GCSEs, the same kind of content. But so I thought that was going to be easy at first, but I did struggle a lot to overcome the changes in my life. School life over there is a lot more relaxed. And students receive a bit more academic support, in my opinion. But just like school culture was just different. Everybody seemed to focus a lot on emotions rather than academics. In the UK schools, it's not like that. Not everyone's not caught up in all the massive gossip. Loads of other international students were at the school as well. There were all the people in the same boat who were on permits and parents had moved over for work. It was a big adjustment. A lot of things happened in my personal life as well, which I'm not going to go into. But it was a big adjustment. And for about a month, there was a big high. I thought, yeah, this looks really great. Then I started to miss home a bit and started to feel a bit like I was struggling. I just felt that school was starting to get a bit like difficult for me. Like I wasn't really fitting in with anyone. I just started to feel a little bit less confident than I was when I started. And it was a bit difficult for that first semester. And I tried my best in school, but I still don't understand what I was doing. See, initially, I thought you had to like graduate to just go to university, but then I found out you had to get a certain average in your subjects. I wasn't aware of that because it's not like how it is in the UK. I mean, we have GCSEs and stuff in the UK, and even they've changed in the 10 years since I left the UK. But it was just so different, like I say, and that's the only word I can really use to describe it. Everyone was quite nice and welcoming, though. It wasn't like I never was bullied or teased or anything at school. I just did find it hard at times to adjust. And yeah, it was difficult. That's just how I can say difficult for me. But I did graduate. I don't know why, but it didn't feel like I worked too hard for it because I'd already got all my prerequisite courses from my GCSEs and they were converted over. So I just graduated still from high school and took a year out to just work. This is partly because of an issue with my permanent residency. It didn't come through in time. But that came through in July of 2015, and that meant that I could reside in Canada for the long term without the need of a permit. It gave me a few more rights to settle in the country and actually to find a job. In the year that I took out before I went to university, I worked a few jobs. I worked at a golf course in a kitchen. I worked in retail, which wasn't particularly fun. I worked at a nightclub, porting, which was long hours. I just worked and saved a bit of money and then applied to university to study Bachelor of Communications with my major in journalism. And in 2016, I began my classes. University itself was very interesting. It's not like England, to be honest with you, but I'm trying to think of how I can sum it up. A degree is generally 4 years rather than 3 years, and you're not graded based on a 2-2, 2-1 first, or whatever like that. It's based on a GPA, a grade point average, which I believe is, you need a 2.0 to a 4.0 to be in the pass range. Now, my first semester of university was a bit of a transition period for me. It was a lot different, obviously, to high school, of course, with the academic setting and having to be less interdependent on other people. You had to really think for yourself a bit more. But I did fight through it quite a bit and found some of my classes quite interesting, learning about communications and grammar and writing and the foundations of journalism in my first year. And I actually finished both of my first year semesters with above I think it was like a 3.0 average. So that was pretty good, in all honesty. I did have some doubts about university around this time though, because I did struggle with a lot of my classes. And I won't lie to you, I did struggle a lot, but I didn't know where to turn to. I couldn't talk to anyone about how I felt about university, about how it was going for me. And that was, again, tough on me, but I didn't really want to stay around at that particular university for a long time because I had my mind set on other things. I had a part-time job working at Rogers Place, the new arena in Edmonton and the home of the Edmonton Oilers, as well as many concerts and other major venues. And I worked part-time there while I was at university. I got that job and it was fun. I was able to watch sports and events for free while getting paid around $60 to $100 a night to do it. And I loved it. It was a good thing to do to supplement my income and so I could support myself while I was at university. I paid for all of my own tuition while I was there. And in my second year, I actually decided to live in residence because my dad was supposed to move to Calgary during that time. It never really came into fruition. But I lived in halls of residence, and the main benefit of that is I made some friends at uni. I stayed with them for about 3 or 4 years. And I had a lot of good memories, all the nights out, partying, boozing, whatever. It was just a really great time. But then my university at that time, I knew I wasn't going to stay on because I planned to transfer to a polytechnic college to study broadcasting. And I had already got some prerequisites and half of a university degree behind my back. So it really gave me a foot in the door to being accepted. And in January 2018, I was accepted. So at the end of that year, I transferred over to there, moved out again and moved into another residence. That time was a little bit more difficult though, because I was doing 8 classes a semester. Everything was a co-requisite. So I had to do classes all at the same time. A lot more workload. And I did find it difficult. I found that tough as well to come to terms with. So I had to, seek some student service assistance in that time and told my parents about it. I was just feeling a bit down at that time at university. But still, I pushed on through it. I decided around this time to actually resign from a job at Rogers Place because I just couldn't balance the work-school thing. So I just pushed forward to just focus on school. In my final in-class semester, I became a what's what I'm looking for? Anchor, that's the word, on the broadcasting channel and the news channel that my school used to host every week. So I got some exposure on YouTube. In December 2019, I went back home for Christmas, and that was actually the last time that I went back home at the time of recording this. I used to go back once a year, but then when COVID hit, I haven't been back since then, basically. December 2019 was a difficult visit back to the UK. It was the last time I actually saw my grandma, because she passed away a couple of months after I visited. That's not really something to talk about right now in this video, but yeah, it's difficult because she used to come and visit me in Canada every year, and she loved this country. She loved the people. She loved just the beauty of it. Everything, really. Yeah, that was tough. COVID-19 pandemic was also quite heavy hitting in Canada because Alberta didn't really manage the pandemic too well. I mean, it had the highest positive test rate in North America at one point. My dad was working away from home at the time. He was away in somewhere rural in British Columbia. So my stepmom and I were stuck at home pretty much. My stepbrother was there because he couldn't go back to America. Yeah, and that was a very strange time, shall we say. Yeah, strange time. Remember through that trip driving all of the Yellowhead Highway 16 from Edmonton all the way to Kitimat and going through Mount Robson and Smithers, Prince George before that, and seeing all the beauty. British Columbia was always a place where a lot of Albertans go to, and it still is a place where a lot of Albertans go to in the summer for the lakes and the boating and the warmer weather. Little did I know that I'd end up moving there 3 years after that. But anyway, let's keep on moving. In 2021, my dad and my stepmom left Edmonton and moved to the Shuswap, a area of British Columbia known for its lakes and boating season and fishing, in a very semi-rural community. At the time, I decided to stay in Edmonton because I didn't really want to live in that rural kind of life. I needed those city comforts. But I was able to work, support myself. And in this time, I managed to travel around Canada a little bit more. I went over to Montreal, Ottawa, two very beautiful cities. I love Montreal, absolutely. I do. I could visit there so many times and never get bored. I've been to Vancouver as well. I went to Kelowna in British Columbia and got to see a little bit more of the country, which was really, really, really nice. The other one downside to Edmonton was the winters, I should add, because I'll talk on this very quickly. It was very bloody cold in Alberta in the wintertime, and Canadian winters are notoriously brutal. I didn't experience how bad it was until that first winter in 2014. It was like, went from black tarmac on the road to just complete whiteout within an hour. And it just came, and it snowed, and it snowed, and it stayed for like 6 or 7 months. And that's what exactly it's like. It's below zero temperature, like minus 20. A lot of chills, a lot of freezing weather. But yeah, that's what you have to expect when you live in a country that's way up north, and especially in a city that's way up north of its own province. Couldn't do any more winters there. So that's around this time when I decided I wanted to look at moving. My brother and his missus moved to Canada in August of 2022 and settled at my dad's house for a little bit. I went over there for my birthday rather, in August 2022. Loved seeing them again. And they moved eventually to Vancouver in January 2023. Due to some issues that were going on in my life at the time, I decided I needed to change the scenery. I'm not going to go into the details about what was going on. It's not appropriate for this video. My brother and his fiance are watching this. Well, my sister-in-law should say, are watching this. You already know what it is. I've been told many times by him not to mention names or whatever. I'm not gonna. just out of respect for the people in this video, I'm not gonna, but I decided to make a change in my life in February 2023. Decided I'm gonna move to Vancouver, build a life there, be closer to my family. So I did it. With my own money and saving up with my own furniture, I packed up my car and drove to my dad's house first over the period of 2 days, then drove down to Vancouver. Stayed at my brother's house in Burnaby, apartment in Burnaby for a few months, got a job, which was a difficult process again. Some adversity was there and doubt. Did over about 500 job applications, managed to get a little job that wasn't really working out, but then moved out once I had a little bit more money into the place where I currently am, and then got my current job, which I absolutely love, working in hospitality. I've made a move to a country, so I was willing to make my move to another city. And honestly, I love my life in Vancouver. It's a unique city. There's no place like it in the world, with the mountains, beaches, lakes, rivers, and the fact that nature is just a few hours outside of the city limits. It's a stunning place. And I really love it here. I love my job. I wouldn't say I'm like 100% happy still, but I'm about 90% of the way there. I certainly love that I've got a lot more time for myself with doing things. I'm able to go out a lot more and explore. I'm more active than I was in Edmonton. And yeah, I feel like I really am settled here. Over the last 10 years, it's been challenging. The word difficult has been repeatedly used throughout this video, but there's a reason for it. Because moving to another country is a very ballsy thing to do. It takes a lot of courage to do it. And you have to be prepared to say goodbye to your family and those home comforts. You may even go several months without seeing those people, even years in some cases. And you'll miss things like your mum's cooking, or visiting friends, or going to that one little restaurant on the corner where you used to hang out when you were a kid, or going to the park where you used to play football on. So those kind of things that you do start to miss, but it just adds to the nostalgia in a way. You go through a period where you settle in the country and you think, yeah, this is great, I love it. I love what I've got here. And then maybe 8 to 10 weeks down the line, you might hit a little bump in the road. Something might happen in your personal life. Something may start to be amiss to you. And you'll start to feel like, oh, yeah, I'm having my doubts about this. You start to feel somewhat pessimistic about yourself. But you've got to really stick it out and understand what you have there. You will have to work hard to support yourself there. Everyone does. I do today. But there's a lot of gratification that comes with it. Whether you graduate from university or get a huge promotion in a job here, you'll find that moving to another country certainly comes with its benefits. Do I miss my life in the UK? No, I don't. I can imagine I probably wouldn't have done much there. And my mum was very supportive of me moving to Canada anyway. I like my life out here. I don't think I'll ever move back to England. Whether that pleases some of you or not, I don't know. Because I just got a good life here. I don't have anything in the UK that really binds me in terms of work or paying taxes. I mean, my mum still lives there, so that's always something that I'll do in terms of going back to visit. But I have nothing in the UK that's going to bind me there, either financially or tax-wise or employment. I've no need to move back. Those who watch my van vlogs will see what goes on here and where I live. You know, I always talk about it very highly. I enjoy my life here. And I never knew that failing sixth form would result in the best mistake of my life. Now that I'm a Canadian citizen, I want to see what the next 10 years of living in this country is going to produce. Hopefully it's going to be good. I might, do some more things and achieve more stuff. Or maybe get married in that time. Well, let's see what happens with that. Okay, got to find a woman first to do that. And dating in Vancouver is a little difficult. But yeah, just want a good life really. And I've got that in Vancouver. So, happy 10-year anniversary to me of living in Canada. It's been a wild ride, but hopefully the next 10 years and the 10 years after that are just as good as the first decade. So yeah, really loving my life here, and let the journey continue.